my recent OCD diagnosis and how alcohol actually kept me stuck in that cycle for many years. My name's Dr. Alex George and I'm nearly 3 years alcohol free, and quitting alcohol has actually changed my life. If you follow my YouTube channel, you'll know that I've shared this journey, my experiences, the ups and downs, as well as advice of how to follow this path if you're interested. So if you're new to alcohol-free living, if you're sober curious, this is the channel for you. There's a new video every single Sunday to support you on your journey. Please do like the video and subscribe, because it really helps us reach more people who we can help with this content. Okay, let's get started. So if you follow me on my Instagram, you'll have seen that recently I shared the fact that I was diagnosed with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, I didn't know whether to talk about this on the channel, but I feel it's really important for alcohol-free living, because there are so many situations where we don't realise what's going on or the struggles we face because alcohol masks stuff or even keeps you stuck. So let me share with you a little bit of how I realised I have this and the kind of journey I've been through so far. So effectively, for kind of almost 15 years, I've been kind of in these cycles of being kind of up and down, struggling at times with different kind of experiences in my life, struggling a lot with worry in particular. And there's obviously been events in my life that kind of perpetuated this. In 2010, I lost my brother. He died by suicide, which obviously was a huge hit to me and my family and my mental health. And since then, I've definitely been up and down. You know, that's where the drinking of alcohol took, I guess, a bigger turn, and I ended up drinking a lot more alcohol to kind of numb the grief. Since then, I've been seeing therapists, and eventually I actually saw a psychiatrist to kind of ask the question, like, what's going on here? I feel like there's more to this than just the grief. Now, I got diagnosed with ADHD about 3 years ago, and that was a real light bulb moment for me. I realised that I probably had this, well, I've had it all my life, but I've probably been experiencing symptoms of ADHD since I was very, very young. Now, this was very helpful because it was the lens in which I realised how alcohol could be perpetuating ADHD. You've got something that is a impulsive disorder, if you like, or you have impulsivity and reduced inhibition, and you pour alcohol on it. It's like petrol on the flames, increases your impulsivity, decreases your inhibition, and globally reduces your emotional regulation, because ADHD is something that you can look through the lens of dysregulation. So effectively, it's a dopamine deficit disorder. Low dopamine, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, means that we're not very good at regulating ourselves. And I think this is a big struggle with ADHD, and unfortunately alcohol made it worse. I quit the alcohol not long after the diagnosis because I had the realisation that probably it would help if I stopped drinking, and that has obviously changed my life. But I've still experienced struggles with my mental health, and I wanted to talk about this because it's really important that people understand that just by quitting drinking doesn't mean your problems go away. The way I see it is that when you stop drinking, you can become aware of your problems. You remove the mask and all the stuff that's blurring it, and you're able to realise, oh, this is what I need to deal with. And you also have the capacity to actually deal with it, because when you're drinking, you're living very minute by minute, day by day, kind of getting over the hangover, trying to do your work, trying to adult, trying to do all these different things. You're never able to go deep into what is actually happening in your life, to ask yourself the bigger questions, I guess. So I have, since I've stopped drinking alcohol, obviously felt a lot better. There's been huge benefits. It's been life-changing, life-saving for me, but I've still struggled with intense periods of obsessional worry. Now, I realised, looking back through my life, that I've had this for a very long time. I kind of class myself as a warrior. In my first children's book, A Better Day, I said that I'm a world-class warrior. And that is true, but to an obsessional level. And I sat down with my psychiatrist, who's known me for about 3 years now, maybe, 3 or 4 years, and I said to her, look, I just don't know that ADHD explains everything that I experienced. I've still got this obsessional worry about things that happened a long time ago, or imagined worries, or potential things that might happen, and it is wrecking my life. Like, it's stopping me from living in the day-to-day and living in the here and the now. And basically what she said was this, that we needed to unpack bit by bit what was happening in my life, from 3 years ago, through the lens of the ADHD, from reducing the alcohol, from dealing with the trauma. I had a lot of therapy for PTSD, to eventually unpack what is what. And it made a lot of sense to me a month or so ago when we sat down, because it's very hard to understand like what's causing what is a knock-on effect of this. Is this as a result of trauma, or what is that? But you have to almost pull all the clothes out, fold them neatly, and put them on the right shelves before you can really see what you're left with. You can see the bigger picture of the wardrobe, I guess. And that is what's kind of happened. It's taken kind of 3 years to come to the point where we realise, no, there is actually an obsessional component to this. So what is OCD? I mean, it's one of the most misunderstood mental health disorders. I think, if I'm correct in saying, it's number 7 on the WHO's most debilitating illnesses. Why? Because it literally can stop you living your life entirely. So what is it? So essentially, all OCD centres around, all versions of OCD centre around an obsession. So that's a worry of some sort, an obsession around something that might happen, might not happen, might be true, might not be true. I'm going to die of this, or this terrible thing's going to happen, or I'm a bad person, or whatever it is. And from that central point of obsession, you then have a compulsion. The reason you have compulsions is for you to try and almost settle and reduce the anxiety. Because if you have this intrusive thought, oh my God, this might happen, or you have this trigger, you see something that makes you think about this thing, you feel this intense anxiety and worry and oh my God, and it's awful and it's all consuming. So you want to kind of nullify that experience. And what you try and do is, well, you have a compulsion. So, it might be thought checking, think about if it's real event OCD, so obsessions around things that have happened, it's checking all the memories, what happened, it's reassurance seeking. It might be for people with cleanliness, it might be cleaning everything, be very careful about where they eat their food from. It can be anything. A compulsion could be physical, so often people think about like putting pencils in order or counting or cleaning, but also it can be entirely within the mind, and often we refer that as pure O, so pure obsessional, where the compulsion is internal, and that's often more difficult to see. And I think that's why a lot of people experience OCD who don't get diagnosed for a long time. Like some people take decades, like me for example, to get a diagnosis, because it's very hard to separate sometimes from anxiety, from depression, from rumination in depression, to kind of work out what's going on, and you can't see it as much. If someone's got an obsession and a compulsion around having to clean to ease their obsession, which may be around illness or disease or germs, whatever it is, that's kind of easier for people to see. If you've got a hand washing compulsion, they'll get really raw hands perhaps from overwashing. There's some sort of sign. But with internal compulsions, it's not as easy to spot, and that is why it's often missed. Now, why have I kind of come to this diagnosis now? I honestly think one of the biggest parts is because I've removed the alcohol, which probably was numbing, but also perpetuating the issue and the cycles. And that made it very difficult to see what was going on. I also think it was really difficult because ADHD and OCD do have some overlaps, although we know that they actually can often perpetuate each other. Now, there is this kind of awareness that sometimes people get diagnosed with ADHD, but actually OCD is what sits behind it. But also there is a huge coexistence of the two. So if you have ADHD, you're a lot more likely to have OCD. Now, from my understanding, and I'm not an expert in this, my understanding is part of this is because of the fact that in ADHD you can have hyperfixation. A lot of people with ADHD will say they become really fixated on things. Now, if you have a fixation on things, and then you have this obsessional worry and you're very sensitive, which often comes with ADHD, the chance of ending up being obsessive around this issue and then developing compulsions around this is much higher. Now, that's my understanding. OCD is also a lot more prevalent in those with autistic spectrum disorder, probably for similar reasons, perhaps slightly different. So where am I at right now? So I have been diagnosed with OCD. Mine kind of centres around like real events, but also imagined stuff like imagined worries, and my compulsions are all kind of internal, so thought checking and worrying and reassurance seeking. Why am I sharing this? Because I think so many people suffer from it and have no idea that it's actually OCD. This month is actually OCD Awareness Month, and I think a great opportunity to kind of like raise awareness of it. So many people, unfortunately, I think die also from OCD because they get pushed so bad. Like, it is such a debilitating thing, and you feel really isolated, like this is a problem with me. And that's probably why so many people take so long to get diagnosis, is that you feel like it is an issue with you. You think this is not like a a disease that I got a cough or something in my lungs, or broken my leg, or it's not like a depression, say, where you're like, oh, this depression's happened to me, but I can't, like, there's nothing that's triggered this necessarily. It's a situation where you feel there is a problem that you need to fix and that you can fix, and you need to work out. Classically, a lot of people with OCD feel that they need to work something out, and you're constantly trying to do that and not realising that the problem isn't the thing, but the OCD that sits behind it. So I've been diagnosed with it. I started medication for it, so sertraline. I take bupropion for ADHD, which has actually been really helpful for levelling my kind of ADHD. So bupropion raises dopamine levels. Sertraline works on serotonin, and serotonin, the action of raising serotonin is kind of your approach with OCD. So that shows a lot of benefit for people and relieving essentially their OCD, particularly when in combination with therapy. So exposure and response prevention therapy is the kind of gold standard. So the idea is that you are in some way exposing yourself to your obsession, but not following the compulsions that follow. So it might be like, okay, I'm going to think about there might be germs on this table in front of me, but I'm going to withhold myself from cleaning the table. Because when you do the compulsion, you reaffirm the obsession and the cycle continues. It's not easy, but it is the thing that makes it better. So I'm starting along that kind of journey. So I'm not sat here going, right, I fixed it all, here we go. I'm in the process of something that's been deep-rooted for a long time. Clearly something that is going to take time to kind of figure out and to fix, but I feel hope because I understand what's going on. So what I'd say to people, and I guess what I was trying to say in the title of this video, is that, you know, removing alcohol isn't necessarily going to fix all of your problems, but it does rip the band-aid off and allow you to see the wound and start working out how to clean the wound and fix the wound and stitch it or whatever it needs to get better. So it's not all sunshines and roses when you quit alcohol. Is my life much better? Yes. Am I much happier? Yes. Even with the OCD? Definitely. I'm much more in control, I have clarity, all these kind of things. And there's a roadmap, there's a pathway towards getting better. So if you're someone watching this thinking, gosh, I might have OCD, or maybe I have ADHD, or maybe I'm stuck, maybe I'm struggling with mood, maybe I'm someone that wants to achieve stuff but I can't, really look at the alcohol thing and consider, like, is the alcohol playing a role in this? Is it actually making things better or worse? I just wanted to share this update with you. I wasn't necessarily going to do a video on OCD because it is an alcohol-free living channel, but it's so much of my life. It is something that has tied into the alcohol. Alcohol definitely was pouring fuel on that kind of OCD flame. So I thought it was really important that I just shared it with you guys. Thank you as always for watching the videos. Please do jump in the comments. If you're someone that's experienced OCD, you've experienced even unrelated things where alcohol's perpetuated that, or perhaps removing the alcohols allow you to see the things that you need to change, then please do share that in the comments. As always, do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. New video every Sunday to support you, and please stick a like. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm and so on. See you all in the next one. Goodbye.